Welcome to the Celebrating Women podcast. Mandee Montana and Ashley Fisher dig into conversation about women, their issues, their thoughts, their lives, and celebrate their gifts, their talents, their courage. It's the Celebrating Women podcast, presented by Hand and Stone Massage and Facial Spa in Tyler, Texas. Hey there, it's Mandee, and you know I love to relax, right? I've shared the secret of where I go. Hand and Stone Massage and Facial Spa, of course. I love sharing about my favorite treatments too. And right now, I want to spotlight the incredible staff at Hand and Stone in Tyler. I recently booked a massage with Li Ming. And I know you've heard the expression, dynamite comes in small packages. Well, that's true with Li Ming. She may be tiny, but she is fiercely strong. I have shared before that I've got some serious knots in my shoulders. Well, sometimes I want to relax and I ask for light pressure, but I opted for firm pressure with Li Ming, and it was the right choice. She applied the perfect amount of pressure to the right spots, and she released those knots. I left feeling refreshed, relaxed, and rejuvenated. You know, the entire staff is great, and this was just another wonderful experience. Now it's your turn to get pampered. Visit Hand and Stone Massage and Facial Spa located in the Cumberland Shopping Center or book online at handandstonetyler.com. Hi friends, it's Mandee. We left off in part 1 of episode 6 with Shelby and Jonathan deciding suddenly that they want to return to Children's Hospital in Dallas after learning that Sophie's cancer has returned. So part 2 tells the story of Sophie's party in her final days and how Shelby continues to honor Sophie on her birthday each year and how she continues to honor her through her writing and speaking engagements. It's a beautiful story. Thank you for listening. Thanks for being here.
The exact same time, we both said, can we go back to Children's? And he goes, well, no one's ever asked to do that, but maybe, let me get on it. 2 hours later, we had an answer. Yes, you're going back to Children's. The next morning at 9 a.m., we were in the car driving back to Children's. And not because Cook's wasn't great. If we had to stay there, it would have been great. We just weren't. We were only there for 6 weeks, and we weren't on the oncology floor, so we didn't form relationship.
Yeah.
Everybody we had was amazing. They all treated her with such dignity and care, but they weren't our people. And so we were allowed to put her in her car seat and drive her in our car back to Dallas. And so, you know, we opened the sunroof and all the things. And I just wanted my husband to keep driving, honestly. But we had to get to the hospital because she needed meds. So we get to Children's, and we were supposed to check in, like, on the first floor in, like, admissions, and I was like, no, I'm not doing that. This is home.
Just going right on that.
Yeah.
Like, they know me here. It's 2 days before Christmas. There's a million people in here. And at this December of 2017, flu season was really bad.
Yeah.
And so I was like, no.
Just no.
I will not be in waiting rooms. They can yell at me. What are they going to do? What are they going to do?
Right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I went straight upstairs to the oncology floor. And I remember Erica, who was one of our favorite nurse techs, was sitting there. And she goes, you're here already? And I went, yeah, put me in a room. And she goes, okay. And so, yeah, then after that, it was, you know, they can never tell you how long you have. Mm-hmm. And it's especially with kids. Kids, a lot of times, they'll start to, like, go down, and they're like, oh, it's time. And then they kind of bounce back up inexplicably. And that happened to us a couple of times. But so we made the decision to just be fully present. And, like, Christmas is canceled. Like, nothing matters. Bills don't matter. No, it doesn't matter. Nothing matters. I made the decision to be pretty open about visitors as long as they called first. Because we'd been so open on the Facebook page and with our families and close friends this whole time. So many people loved her so much that within reason, we were very open about visitation. And I banned crying in the room.
Good for you.
Well, because she was still
she doesn't need
present.
Yeah.
She still knew what was going on. And if people were crying, it upset her. Like, she would get agitated. Myself included. I had to leave. And that's, like I said, I had a crying corner. It's on the 7th floor behind some food carts. I know exactly where it is. Go to the crying corner, go to a chair, go to a bathroom, go to your car, but don't cry in the room. And Children's was so amazing. They put us in a room in the corner that had kind of a sitting area outside of the room. So, I mean, it was almost like our own private, like, meeting place. And really, for days, we had, so our church has 5 campuses. 4 of the campus pastors came up there. All of our, I mean, just so many people came up to pray with us and pray for her and tell her goodbye. And just, it was really sweet. It wasn't, but it was. Like, you talk about, people ask you if you've ever, like, fully experienced the presence of the Holy Spirit. I mean, you could walk, it's like when you walked over the threshold of the door, like you felt it.
Yeah.
And I mean, so my husband's whole family sings.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh.
So the room was just like singing, and the nurses would come in and sing, and it was really sweet. And we did make sure to have a boundary. And if I came to a point where I wanted her by myself, I'd be like, get out. I don't care if there's 10 people in here. I don't care if you just got here and you drove in from Houston. Get out.
Yeah.
Come back in an hour. Mm-hmm. Like, it's my time. So yeah, we did that. We called it Sophie's Party. Like, we just partied for days and watched all her favorite movies and read the favorite books and told all the stories and
soaked up the time.
Yeah, we did. And on New Year's Eve, the nurses, all with their own money, ordered us Mexican food and made like a banner that said Happy New Year, Sophie, and got us all like party hats. And even though we really didn't feel like celebrating, but it was really sweet. It was like the world kind of stopped for those days, and it ended up being about 13 days. And she slowly started declining. Eventually we had to put her on oxygen, and then we had to go to a mask, and then we had to start morphine. And then on January 4th, she died. And that's a whole other thing that I'm not really going to go into. But it was just my husband and I in the room when that happened. We made that decision that was just for us. When she started to go down, everybody kissed her goodbye, and they left. And then we let our family come in afterwards if they wanted to. It was no pressure. If you don't want to see her like that, that's totally okay. And yeah. And then, the next day we go home without our kid, and then we go to the funeral home, and all these things happen. And we decided to do just a family-only graveside service, and then plan a bigger thing later. Because at that point, Sophie's Facebook page had reached 65,000 people, I think.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. And so we knew we wanted to do something that would be broadcast. To
celebrate her.
Yes. And but I wanted to honor that and give it time to plan it well.
Yeah.
I didn't want to just rush into it and be like, I just want all these things over with. So we did a graveside service, just our family. And then Jonathan and I decided that seeing her beforehand was just for us. Because we'd been so public about everything else. And so sharing with our families, and because they'd all gotten a chance to see her at the hospital before we left, that was us. That was ours. And so that's what we did. And it was horrible and sweet and horrible. And so about 2 weeks, I think, after she died is when we did the big service at our church here in town.
And it was amazing.
And our pastor spoke about Lazarus, which was really funny because we were like, huh? But then he got into it, and it was about how, like, Jesus didn't cry because he was sad for his friend, because he knew what he was about to do. He knew he was about to raise him from the dead. He was crying because it's not supposed to be this way. This is not supposed to be how it is. And he was lamenting that we had to live in this world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And be broken and be sad.
Yeah.
And it was great. It was, I mean, you don't want to say your kid's funeral's great, but the message was really
beautiful.
good.
It really was.
And we told him, because we knew we were broadcasting it to thousands of people, we said, free reign, do what you got to do. Like, share Jesus.
Yeah.
And he did. And it was really long. It was like 3 hours long. It was a very long service.
It sounds really healing, though.
It was. And I spoke, which everybody,
did.
I
She
did. And my sweet husband
He
sang
sang.
Amazing Grace. I didn't know he was going to do that. He surprised me on
wow.
stage. Our family, my brother-in-law sang, my sister
That's where I lost it.
and my other brother-in-law spoke. Like, it was just very just like when she was sick. It was, if you can be here and you want to, we would love that. And if you don't, that's okay. Like, my dad wrote something and had our pastor read it because he didn't think. So it was just like, and if you don't want to say anything or do anything, that's great. That's totally fine. Because our families are so close, and Sophie was so loved, it was like, whatever will not only honor her, but help in your healing too. Because I mean, like, my sister and I are best friends, and it's like kind of not her mom, but a little more than an aunt. And the same with our moms and grandmothers. And it was just, our family's very, very close. And we just wanted that. It's everybody's chance to tell her goodbye.
You're so selfless. I'm just listening.
I don't know about that.
You are.
As the years have gone by, I think I've gotten a little less selfless.
You know what?
I have a lot of rage, guys.
I think you freaking deserve it.
Yeah, you seem to have so much inner strength, Shelby. It's really remarkable.
It's not me, but Ashley took photos for us, which again, it's not really something you think of that you want photos for, but then it's like, but yeah, I kind of do. And I still don't know the amount of people that were in the room. I know
It was a full room.
I know I bought 400 green like ribbons that said Sophie on them. And her thing is God is Bigger was from VeggieTales. Was her favorite thing.
Oh.
And so they said that on there. And I know I ordered 400 of those. And I know we didn't have any left.
Yeah.
So I don't
wouldn't
know.
be surprised if it were at least that many. Cause
And
that
then I
room was
know,
full.
because I looked on the Vimeo, like the webcast numbers after the service. And I think like a week after the service, it had been viewed like 8,000 times or something like that.
Wow.
And then it was like, okay, now we start the process of what's next. Because, you know, when all that's going on, you're in just overdrive and your adrenaline. And I swear my husband and I think we both slept for like, I want to say it was like 20 hours or something like that straight.
I
The
bet.
night after the service.
Understandably.
Yeah.
And then we just kind of went radio silent for a while. We went to San Francisco for 10 days and spent way too much money. Like, so much money. Because it was just like, who cares? Our kid died. We're
Yeah.
doing this.
You needed an escape from it all.
We did every touristy thing you could possibly imagine in San Francisco, which if you know my husband is funny because he hates that kind of stuff. And he hates traveling.
Really?
If he could stay in Tyler, Texas every day for the rest of his life, he would.
Do it.
But
And Shelby's like, hold my beer.
yeah, basically. And so, yeah, we did that. And then, yeah, we just kind of did nothing for a while. We watched a lot of like Law and Order SVU, which sounds terrible because it's like we're watching all these people suffer.
Well, but
it's
not,
like, well.
it's not hospital suffering. It's not like you're watching like Grey's Anatomy, you know, where
But it's almost like now, like the Law and Order like like triggers us because
Yeah.
we watched it.
Oh.
And we're in this like
could see
super
that.
sad
Yeah.
place.
Yeah.
But then another example of just the church showing up for us. And I still don't know to this day if it was just the church did this or if it was donations. I don't know. But the church basically paid our rent for almost a year.
Wow.
We had people calling, paying car payments. Neither one of us went back to work for 10 months.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which is insane. Like, I have a friend who lost a baby not long before I lost Sophie, and she was back at work like 4 weeks later. It was almost like a maternity leave, kind of. Like, she was back
Oh,
at
my
work
goodness.
immediately.
Yeah.
Which people have to do. I mean, I
Yeah.
know how blessed I was. I mean,
Yeah.
my school, even though I did not teach one day of that school year, they kept me on staff so I could keep my insurance. And they opened up the sick bank to where I got paychecks most of the year.
Wow.
Amazing.
Small town, that's a small town for you, I guess.
Yeah.
But you know, so we had almost too much time and space because we just kind of found ourselves in what we call it the hole.
Yeah.
My husband sat in his recliner a lot. I sat on the couch a lot. But at the same time, it was I couldn't imagine doing anything else. Like, I don't want to do anything.
That's just so much to, if you take out the inconceivable of losing a child,
Yeah.
just the hospital part, the you know, Sophie has, every time she had a procedure done, every time she got a poke, they in children's they had like this line of beads. You know, they'd give you a bead.
It's called Beads of Courage.
Beads of Courage. And Sophie's beads were, I don't even know how long.
I have it written down somewhere. It's
they
so long.
coiled. I mean, it was
It's like
just.
she has like, I think it's like 1,400 beads or something like that.
And you think about
I have it
that.
written down somewhere.
You think about that. I've thought about this for you so many times. Like, Shelby and Jonathan not only have to process their loss, but they have to process every single one of those
I mean, it
beats
happened to her, yeah.
that happened to her. Because if it happened to her, it happened to you.
Yeah. And I mean, and then you deal with the practical stuff of like, we had to file for the death certificate and we had to order a headstone and,
And then come home to her room.
well, kind of. We moved in the middle
did?
of her being sick. Yes.
Wow.
We moved from Athens back to Tyler because we wanted to be closer to Mother Frances.
Yeah.
And our church is here. Most of our friends are here. In Athens, we had Jonathan's family, which was great. But we wanted to be, basically our thought process, because at the time we thought she was coming home, was we wanted to be around, have more of our community closer when she came home. And so her room was kind of put, because we moved in September. So it was right after the relapse and the brain damage, when we were kind of realizing the brain damage. So I never like fully unpacked her room.
And did she ever see?
No, she never came home after August.
Okay,
she never was even in our apartment here in Tyler.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I mean, all her stuff, I mean, still packing up things or just being in there. I do remember one time, because over the months of her being in the hospital, that room kind of just became the catch-all. Like if we brought stuff home from the hospital or just whatever. And she'd been gone a couple weeks, and I went in there with a bottle of wine and like rage cleaned. Like I threw away anything that was like a hospital. I didn't throw it away. I put it in like a bag, like any hospital, like gloves and syringes and gauze, and I gave it to our friend who was still in treatment. And then any like toy or anything that she never got to touch, like it was given to us, but she never got to play with it. I was like, I don't want this. I'm just like throwing things out of the room. I'm like drinking a whole bottle of wine. It was very therapeutic.
It sounds like it.
But yeah, so her room just kind of stayed that way for a while. Like the crib mattress stayed on the floor, and the bookshelf stayed, because I had like decorated the bookshelf, and I think put her clothes in the dresser. But that's really all I had done when we moved, because I was only home for like a day when we moved.
Right.
But yeah, so then eventually the writing stuff kind of took off. I started writing more about grief, and
You did?
I did, yeah. So on her page, and then I also started submitting to this website called Her View from Home, which is amazing.
So tell me more about that, because I don't know this part of your story.
Yeah, so Shelby, like she would you wrote while Sophie
It started
sick.
as just updates.
But there was even one article in particular about the nurses, like I see you.
So yeah, I started writing just updates. I've always enjoyed writing. Like creative writing was my favorite thing when I was in 4th grade. Like Miss Reeves, shout out to my 4th grade teacher.
We like teachers on this podcast.
And then I really enjoyed teaching writing when I was a teacher. I've just always enjoyed writing. I've pretty much consistently kept some kind of a journal my whole life. And even though the silly, like, oh, I like Justin in 6th grade and whatever.
I can relate to that.
But so I always enjoyed it. And then it kind of became therapy for me. Not only would I post updates about Sophie, I would kind of post stories of what I was seeing or what I was experiencing, or just kind of trying to lift the veil and be transparent about what a life of childhood cancer looked like. And then after she died, what life in the fallout looked like. Being very honest about the whole, like, I can say I love Jesus and I know God is good, and that this has a purpose, even though I'm really sad, I'm really pissed off about it. I'm not just going to tie the Jesus bow on it and be like, well, God is good, even though I'm really sad. No, like, God is good, but I'm pissed.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I have faith that these things are true. That doesn't help me right now.
Right.
So I was real about it. I hate being that person, because I hate the videos where people film themselves crying. It's like, I'm so sad. Let me set up my phone.
I know. It just doesn't seem to compute.
But I have caught myself, like, I took a picture of, like, so one time I was picking out cemetery flowers in Hobby Lobby, and I lost it. So I'm sitting in the aisle in Hobby Lobby, so I took a picture of my feet. But because from the standpoint of, I want to share this experience so people understand what it's like, but also
it doesn't feel right to take a selfie right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then, but also, I know so many other moms going through this. I want them to feel less alone.
Yeah.
You're not crazy if you're sitting on the floor in Hobby Lobby crying. You're not.
Right.
Even if your kid's not dead, if you need to sit on the floor in Hobby Lobby and cry, just
do it. What? You're just having a bad day? Just go to Hobby Lobby, sit on the floor and cry.
It does feel like a safe place to do that. Like, there would be a lot of empathetic people in the building who would either allow you to have that moment.
Nobody
and
bugs
sense
me.
it.
Yeah, they just were there.
No, who's gonna bug the chick crying sitting in the aisle at Hobby Lobby? But Shelby, like, she had a way of, no matter what you're dealing with in life, whether you can relate on being a cancer mom, or you can just relate on grief or on just something horrific happening in life. She had a way of just the way she puts words to things. I mean, you talked about one time even pissed you off because you checked your mail and you got something in the mail about, I don't know what it was.
Oh, it was like to the parents of Sophie Skiles or something like that. And I was like, well, that sucks.
And I mean, and just being very real about those moments. And I always feel like when you're transparent in a moment like that, with as much as you're comfortable, you give permission to other people to break down in the parking lot, to sit in Hobby Lobby and cry. And you had an article kind of go national.
Yeah, it went mega viral in, I think it was like October. So she was still sick. We're in the hospital, and it was post brain damage. And I'm sitting on the little couch bed in the middle of the night, can't sleep because life. And I have my iPad out, and I'm just kind of sitting there. And we loved all of our nurses at Children's, literally. But one of our faves was in there, and I called her the night ninja. Her name's Chelsea. And she could come in and out and do all kinds of stuff and would not wake me up.
That's amazing.
Literally, she was a night ninja. But I just happened to be awake. She didn't wake me up. I was already awake. But I don't know. I don't think maybe she knew I was awake, because I was kind of laying down, like had my iPad kind of in front of my face, like I'd been watching a show because Sophie was asleep. And I kind of peered around that because, I kind of looked up when she came in the room, and a lot of the times they ignore you if they don't need you, especially in the middle of the night. They just kind of get in and get out. And so I don't know if she knew I was awake or not. I have no idea. But I kind of leaned around the iPad just to check and see kind of what she was doing. And she's like on her knees by the bed, and, she's just like stroking Sophie's head and talking to her, and she was doing something. I think she was taking vitals or something. But it was just the dignity and the care that she was giving my child, not just but my very disabled, very sick child. Instead of just, I know you're busy. I know you've got a million patients tonight, but taking that time. Yeah. To just for a second.
When she thinks nobody's watching,
yes,
too.
But she wasn't in there that long. It's not like she stayed in there for 20 minutes. But, just real quick, but just and Sophie was asleep, but just this, someone is touching and loving on your child. And I know without a doubt that if I hadn't been in the room, she still would have done that. Yeah. Because I saw them doing it when in rooms that the doors were open and mom couldn't be there. Or, I saw them. There was a patient in the room next door to us for a long time who was a baby. And mom's a single mom with 3 kids, and mom can't be there. Wow. And so the nurses have a bouncer at the nurse's station. They're bouncing it with their foot while they're charting. Or they're holding her, giving her a bottle while they're on the phone with the pharmacy.
So that they have physical connection.
Yes.
Yeah. Because it's so important.
Yes, so they're momming this cancer baby while also having to do their job. Yeah. And it just, it was a culmination, because at that point we'd been in the hospital basically since May.
You observed so much.
I did, and so I just kind of wrote about that. I just said, I just wrote it out, dear nurses, dear pediatric nurses, specifically oncology nurses, but just in general, I just want you to know I see you. And as a mom and teacher, I think that's where my heart came from, because it's teaching's a thankless job a lot of the times. Being a mom's a thankless job a lot of the times. Nurses, medical care a lot of times. Airline workers. I was just thinking about, some of these jobs that are thankless. Right. But they're so vital and so important. And if you have the right attitude, you can affect someone's life in such a big way. And so I just started writing out those things that I'd seen over the last few months. I see you taking a minute to rub my kid's head, or I see you with a Nerf gun, about to have a Nerf battle with the kid down the hall, or all these things that I'd seen. And I just threw it up on the Facebook page in the middle of the night. And the next morning it was gone. It was crazy. I mean,
I want to read it.
It just kept getting shared, amazing. And you could literally Google it. It's dear nurse. I mean, it's crazy. Really. It went mega viral, and I ended up doing phone interviews and video interviews with People Magazine and Us Weekly, and the news covered us, and it just went insane. And then, so after that, I started writing a lot more, because I was like, well, I might could actually do this,
and help people.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I did, and of course, now, granted, it's a child's cancer page, so I didn't get a whole lot of negativity, but you're always going to get some
Sure.
person. That's ridiculous.
Anytime you put yourself out there.
And that's fine, whatever.
Yeah.
And so I just block, delete, whatever. I don't
Yep.
care.
Boundaries.
And again, you're putting yourself on a public forum.
Yeah.
And like people would send me, because again, when you have something go viral on Facebook, it's going to get stolen. Like it just is. And I was like, I put pictures of my child out there. It's going to happen. And of course now in hindsight, maybe I shouldn't have, but also her story, her story, and it's gone.
You've helped how many people
It has
grieve
gone
and heal.
crazy.
Yeah.
And so, then I just kept writing, and now it's kind of a thing.
So you're continuing to write?
Yeah. So, I've written a lot on the Facebook, mainly just on the Facebook page. I've shared several posts with Her View from Home, which is the website that I've written for a couple of times. And actually tomorrow, Her View from Home's book is releasing, and I have a page.
Really?
Yeah.
Yay!
It's just 2 pages, but we're in the book.
Oh,
It's
Shelby.
called, shout out, it's called So God Made a Mother. And it's beautiful. y'all.
Please
It is
share the link with me so we can attach it to the
beautiful.
podcast.
Yeah.
It releases tomorrow. So what's tomorrow?
Was it one of your, like a couple of your past
One of them,
writings?
yeah. One of them
Okay.
is, yeah. The one about Crocs.
The Crocs one
Yes.
made it?
So
Oh,
it's in
God.
there. I'm really excited. So the book is available April 18th. So
Okay,
when this
perfect.
comes out, it'll be out.
Yeah, it'll be available. So yeah, please share the
So
link
it's on
with us so we
Amazon.
can
I'm
share
actually
it.
going to go. I need to go to Barnes and Noble because I want to see if they have it at our Barnes and Noble. Just because I'm like, I'm here. I'm in this.
Yes. And you need to take somebody with a camera
Yes.
that can take your picture.
But
Or take Ashley.
So that okay, let's go. But that
I'm sorry, I just volunteered you.
Hey, I'm for it.
But that's another thing that I've also been thinking a lot about lately, about things that wouldn't have happened to me if she hadn't died, which is a really weird.
It's a weird
place
thought,
to
yeah.
be in.
I can- yeah.
Because I would give anything for her to be here, but also I've experienced like this Her View from Home community. It's all these writers, all these women. I drove to Nebraska the summer of 2019 when I was 28 weeks pregnant and went to this like weekend retreat with all these writing women who I'd never met in person. That's so not me. I'm not that person. I'm not that adventurous person, but I did it. And I just love these women, and
You're
it's
not.
just,
I
I'm
think
so
you-
honored.
I think you are though.
I'm not.
listening. Okay. I hear you.
I'm like a true ambivert. I'm like both.
I understand. I am too. I totally get it. So like I totally hear you. But as I'm listening to you, and I don't know you very well, I met you today before
Yeah.
you came in. You have this inner strength. Listening to you talk about Sophie, listening to how many people showed up for you,
Yeah.
listening to how you showed up for Ashley. And like Ashley said, I have no doubt she's not the first person that you did that for, and she will not be the last.
Gifting is my love language.
Yes.
Right. And you know that. And so look at how that was reflected back to
Yeah.
you
Oh,
and
100%.
is continuing to be reflected back to you. Part of the reason we wanted to do this podcast, Shelby, is that oftentimes
Excuse me.
women like you do extraordinary things. And it's difficult for you to put a spotlight on yourself
It really is.
and say, I can show up and be an extraordinary person.
Yeah.
And so that's part of why Ashley and I wanted to do this podcast and have people like you here, because we see it. Just like you saw those nurses and you wanted to write about them, we want to have you here and celebrate you and your extraordinary spirit, and to celebrate Sophie as well. I mean, it's just it's a beautiful story. You're a beautiful woman.
I just love talking about her anytime. So.
I made it
it's
until
clear.
right now.
I'm sorry, Ashley. Ashley was like, I've been sitting over here
I
crying.
was good until right then.
Ashley was like, I know you have a newborn, but do you want to come talk about Sophie? And I was like, yes.
My thing that I've struggled with a lot. When I did this project, like it was 4 years ago, and at the end of it, first of all, I remember coming to your apartment, sitting down with you with Chipotle.
Oh, that sounds good.
That I'm
does
sitting
sound
there.
really good. I was just like,
I'm sitting there eating because I think I'm just eating my emotions, and you're sitting there with this bowl in front of you, and you're just telling me, about those last few days with her.
Yeah.
And I've thought often, like, in my head, I had already had this idea of I want to have this space when I hit the year mark with the Celebrating Women project. I want to create a space for all of those women to come back and be with each other, encourage one another. And I don't think there's anybody better than Shelby to be the one to speak But at the time, I have struggled so much with this after the fact, because you stood up there 9 months to the day when she'd passed away. And you'd also, like, you know, dealt with some things just in the few days leading up to that.
Yeah.
And you stood up there in front of a room full of people who, by the way, were not there for me. They were there for Shelby.
I knew like half the people in the room.
You did. And they came for you because they had, probably 75% of that room had followed your story and followed Sophie. And she just stood there and she spoke to this room and told Sophie's story, told her story. And I have struggled at times with going, would a better friend have just let her be and not put you in the position to stand up there 9 months after the fact?
No, I would have said no. I'm very good at saying no.
And I felt like you would. I just, you know, there have been times where I thought maybe I just should have shut up and just let her be. But at the same time, I knew, I think, Mandee, you just put into words what I've been trying to put into words for the last 4 years. It was just, I want you to know I see you. Mm-hmm. And that I want, you know, that room full of people, like I told Mandee on like one of our first episodes, I really hope that felt like a hug to you, because if Ashley Fisher had said, hey, y'all come to my event, it would have been about 10 people. But because you were going to be there, and because of your heart and because of everything that you represent, people showed up for you. And I marvel at that. I marveled at it then. I marvel at it now. I marvel at you. And I know that, you know, you'll say it's not you. And I know that you and I share that, you know, relationship with God that I've also marveled at. You know, I love that you're able to say, I believe God is good and I'm pissed, you know? Yeah. So anyway.
But you do allow him to show up. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like you can say it's not me, but you allow him to work through you.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, all the things that have happened over the last 5 years would not have happened.
Right.
I mean, I've spoken now several different events. I would love to keep doing that. Like, shout out. If you want me to come speak, I'm down.
You got a podcast that will spread out into the world.
Hopefully we can help you.
Yeah, so about the following September, so September of 2018, the hospital, like Children's Health, asked me to come speak at their huge hospital-wide employee recognition banquet.
Wow.
It's called Paint the Town Red. It's their annual. I mean, it's huge. I mean, it's thousands of workers at Children's. Because I had gifted a wood prints of the letter, the Dear Nurses.
Oh.
I had a friend of mine print those on there, and I gifted it to the hospital, and they have it on the wall outside of the playroom on the oncology floor at Children's. So because that had gone so crazy mega viral and the hospital had gotten a lot of attention because of it, they actually now use my letter in their employee trainings when they have new employees now.
Oh, Shelby, what an honor.
They do. And so they asked me to come speak at that. And I told Sophie's story then, and we got like the complete rock star treatment. Like I had hair and makeup, and I had a handler.
You did?
I know. I felt so. I was like, ooh. I had a handler. She brought me my drinks, and they put us up in the Omni, and it was really special. So I did that, and then I've spoken at a couple of fundraising events for various.
Do you get nervous?
No, because I'm talking about Soph.
Right. It's not about you.
Yeah. And my husband's been with me on a couple of them, which is not his thing at all. But
he's more of the introvert.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Unless he knows you. If he knows you, he will never shut up. But if he doesn't know, he's very, especially after all this.
Sure. All
the grief and such has changed both of our personalities, but his a lot in that sense. He's a lot more introverted and has a lot more social anxiety than he used to. Mm-hmm. And that's a whole other thing I've wanted to write about is, you know, how we've changed and how our marriage has changed. And so now we have 2 rainbow babies. We have 2 kids now. My son Connor's 3.5. And then Emma, the breastfeeding podcaster, is 9 weeks old. And that's
She's
something
beautiful.
I've thought about over the last 9 weeks is if Sophie hadn't died, would we have her? Because we only wanted 2 kids. So yeah, I have a lot of things ruminating in my brain. The notes on my phone has a whole lot of article ideas and book ideas and all these things I would love to do when I, you know, have a spare.
You're not nursing anymore.
Yeah, not nursing anymore. I'd love to just share her full time, and we would both. My husband and I both would eventually love to do a nonprofit and
I was about to say a foundation.
Be able to just go to the hospital. Because we do every year on her birthday in March. We do a little fundraiser just on the Facebook page. The 6th year we've done it was this past March. I just post the PayPal link and I'm like, hey, I like to go toy shopping. I know what they need. I know what you can't take up there. And it's fun for me to pick out things and because I get to kind of feel like I'm doing something for her birthday.
And it's your love language.
It's my love language. And so we've done it every year, and every year it's been a little bit more and more money. And then we go on her birthday, and we take the toys to the hospital, and it's been really sweet. Of course, the last couple of years we haven't gotten to go inside because of COVID. But we at least get to drop it off at the door and see the hospital and tell the child life workers who we know hi. And
are they not the most like...
Oh my gosh.
Amazing.
That's a whole
people.
other conversation.
Yeah. Sometime I would love to hear your perspective on that.
If I had the capacity to go back to school, and if we lived in Dallas and had any desire to move out of Tyler, Texas, I know there's child life at the hospital here, but
but there's only the funds for one.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if I could go be an oncology child life worker, yes. 100% yes. And maybe that's in the cards for us one day, but I don't think we're ever leaving Tyler, but
They're
who knows?
special people.
Oh my gosh. Literally. Not just for the kids, but for parents, and they can explain things in such a way that you just feel like, oh, that makes sense. It's not doctor talk. It's human talk. Real people talk.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But yeah. So we do that every year. We call it Do More for Sophie the Brave Day. So that kind of stuff I would love to do full time and like speak and write full time, but that's not.
When Sophie was still in the hospital, I feel like she was still at Children's. You came home for like a couple of days and we went and had lunch at La Madeleine. And I remember really seeing it and knowing it then, but going, this, like what you envision, what you hope for, I know that's going to happen. Like in some capacity. In I hope and I think bigger ways than even you can imagine is going to happen just because
God is bigger.
Yes.
God's bigger, man.
Yes. God's bigger, man. That's
God's
what she'd
bigger,
say.
man.
God's bigger, man.
Well, we have a few questions that we like to ask everyone at the end of the podcast. Okay. So I think I already know the answer to this question, but what gets you up in the morning and keeps you up at night? What is your passion?
Children, no.
Yeah, I mean, yes, and
Connor and Emma.
Yeah, Connor and Emma. But I mean, while I don't do stuff like this every day or share Sophie every day, and I'm not happy. I have a lot of rage. There's a lot of days that I'm just really mad at the world.
Sure.
And just feel like it's like permanent PMS, But yeah, I mean, just making a difference because we're only here for a short time and, just do more for Sophie. I try to not sweat the small stuff anymore because there's literally no point. Just kind of show up for people.
Yeah. No, I think that's a beautiful answer. And it's pretty much what I expected you to tell me after listening to this. Yeah, it does totally track. What scares you? What are you afraid of?
Really nothing anymore. Because, I mean, everybody's worst fear is losing a kid.
Yeah.
And then we did. So, I mean, obviously, I think that's probably still a fear because now I have 2 more children and we had a child with cancer. And so while we did a lot of genetic testing and that kind of stuff, it's always there.
Yeah.
Anytime they have a cough or my son wakes up sweaty, it's always there. Mainly because I don't know that I could do it again.
Yeah.
Go through it again. I don't know that I could physically do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess that's still a fear.
Sure.
So yeah.
Much lighter question that we borrowed from a friend.
That's great. I like it.
Who I'm just putting it out there. She can be my friend. Rachel Hollis always asks her guest this. What is your coffee order?
I don't drink coffee.
Neither did our first guest.
I don't like coffee. What? I don't mind the smell of it, but then after having both of my children, or all 3 of my children, the smell made me nauseous.
Really?
When I was pregnant, because my husband drinks black coffee. And we'd be standing in church, and his cup would be like nose level, and I would be like, I'm gonna throw up all over you. And then after COVID too, it just smells weird to me. But I've never liked the taste. I will get like a white chocolate mocha.
Yeah.
Basic girl drink around Christmas.
Yeah.
But that's really it. But my go-to is I drink Spark.
Okay. Yeah.
Strawberry mango Spark every morning.
Nice.
Every morning?
Every morning.
I feel like you do have one of these. Do you have a favorite cocktail?
Lord, yes. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not a beer drinker. I I've become a wine drinker recently. I still don't. Then my friends make fun of me. They say I'm a girly wine drinker because I like you
The
know,
fruity stuff.
yeah, and
That's me too.
bubbles, champagne.
Yeah.
But I really like French 75s.
I do too. Yeah.
And although technically I think it's called a French 76 if you do it with vodka. But but yeah, so it's champagne, simple syrup, lemon juice. I've had one with orange juice, which was really good.
I bet it was.
And then either vodka or gin.
Yeah.
So I really like those a lot. They're good.
I do too.
You feel fancy when you drink it.
Yeah, you do. You do. I agree.
need to try that.
Last question. We know that your husband doesn't like to travel, but he can come or not. Either way. Dream trip. You've got a free ticket. You got a free hotel. You're going to stay somewhere swanky and nice. If you could go anywhere.
Oh, Italy, 100%.
Okay. Where?
Tour of Italy, just the whole thing.
whole
Which
thing.
is funny because my sister and brother-in-law are in Italy literally today. They're there right now.
Really?
Yes, they're in Florence today.
They didn't pack you in their suitcase?
They're taking my dream trip right now. But yeah, Italy for like vacation, all expense. Yes. Personal, just like bucket list dream trip would be Israel.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Beautiful.
But so, yeah, Italy, Israel.
Okay.
I'll stick with the eyes.
Italy's amazing. I've been twice. I highly recommend it.
I would love to.
So, okay, as we wrap up, Ashley, I'll let you tell them where they can find us. But Shelby, where can we find you on Facebook and to read some of these beautiful articles that you've shared?
So right now it is just still Sophie's Facebook page. It's Sophie the Brave on Facebook. I have plans, and I need maybe this will be my jump off point of starting a kind of a paid subscription blog. It's called on Substack, and it's going to be called Depressed but Very Blessed.
Oh,
I love that so
Because
much.
it feels wrong to change the name of Sophie's page because it is still very much about her, even though it's not updates about her anymore. It's more of a newsletter, I guess. I don't know. I haven't played with it quite yet, but basically you can do different tiers where there's free content, but also you could say, hey, if you want to pay $5 a month, just read my words, which feels weird. But like, I'm going to do an extra XYZ. I don't know. Again,
You're worth it.
Like I said, I'm working on it. It's a
work in progress.
skeleton plan right now, but that is hopefully coming soon. And then, yeah, I've written for Her View from Home, which is just there on Facebook, Instagram, all the things. And then like that book, So God Made a Mother.
You can find us several places. Instagram, Celebrating Women Podcast. Facebook, Celebrating Women Podcast. And I always mess up the email, so you do it.
Celebrating Women Podcast
At Gmail?
at gmail.com.
Got it.
Yes. And we would love to hear from you, especially if you have a woman that you feel like you would want to be celebrated. You can send us a voicemail or you can write in either way, but we would love to hear from you. And Shelby, thank you. This has been
Thank
such
you
an honor.
guys. Thanks. I'll talk about her anytime.
The Celebrating Women podcast has been presented by Hand & Stone Massage and Facial Spa in Tyler. Book your appointment today. Stop by the spa in Cumberland Shopping Center or online at handandstonetyler.com. The Celebrating Women podcast wants to hear from you. Find us on social media at facebook.com/Celebrating Women Podcast or on Instagram. Search Celebrating Women Podcast. You can also email us a voice message to celebratingwomenpodcast@gmail.com. We would love to hear your story or the story of an incredible woman you know. Send it to celebratingwomenpodcast@gmail.com. The Celebrating Women podcast is created and hosted by Mandee Montana and Ashley Fisher. Thank you so much for listening, and don't forget to subscribe to the Celebrating Women podcast.